Hi, Nachi. Welcome to Writersmelon. Welcome to Author's Corner. And many congratulations on your new book. I would love to start with today's discussion, today's talk, with getting to know you. From what I know, that you have had a long, successful corporate career, and then at this stage of your life, you decided to write a thriller. So please tell us about you as an author. What did you do? What do you like to do? And how did you think about writing a thriller, basically?
Thank you, Priyanka, for having me on the show. Yeah, basically, when I was kind of growing up, I was a voracious reader, and when I was in college, I used to participate in all of these cultural things, debates and drama and acting and script writing for skits and stuff like that. But obviously, I knew that I had to kind of coming from a kind of a middle class family. I knew that I had to work, and so I focused on doing my engineering and then my MBA. So I did the thing that I should do. Somewhere in my mid 40s, and I was working actually in Spain, and it's very interesting. My son was about 5 years old at that time. He was playing tennis in Barcelona, and I was
Mm-hmm.
sitting watching him play tennis. And when I was just sitting idly, I kind of just had an idea to write a mystery, and I thought of a storyline in my head, and I
Mm-hmm.
wrote it down in a notebook because I always carried a notebook with me. So I wrote it down in a notebook, and I never found the time to kind of write because I had a career that was going every 3 years. I was moving countries and stuff. But I told myself that if I ever have a break in my career, if I ever get a chance, then I will certainly, the day that I stop working, I will start writing, so that the mind doesn't stay idle, thinking about it. So that's how it happened. So literally, the day I decided to stop working with my previous firm, the next day I started writing. It was actually a Sunday, so I started writing on that Sunday. The idea for it, which I had written in a couple of pages from my notebook that was there in Spain. It was just an outline. It was literally 2 pages on which I had scribbled some thoughts, very bare bones kind of a plot. And I just started sitting and writing. And I told myself that I will write every day, just like work, from 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening, with a very, very short break. So that's how I basically started on it. And the bare bones idea is what I had. And I just found that as I kept writing, the story kept coming, basically. I didn't like do too many rewrites per se. I did do quite a bit of grammatical editing and punctuation and stuff like that. But so I found that quite a happy process. Basically, enjoyed myself a lot writing it. So I wrote the first book that I've written. I wrote that in about a month, basically. But like I said, I was working as if I was working full time, morning to evening, no breaks, had lunch,
Amazing.
table, etc. So it was like work, and I literally willed myself into that because I said, if I just don't work and I just sit around and watch a lot of television and stuff, then I'll kind of become a vegetable. And I wanted to do something productive with my life.
So you
So that's
started
how the
writing
writing.
when? You started writing when? Last year or
Oh no, no,
the
I
year
started
before?
writing this year. So I
Okay.
started writing actually
As in
towards
21, 2021. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, 2021. I wrote my book in June, and I published in on the 1st of November. So I wrote it in the month of June, basically. Finished the editing by about July, my internal editing and stuff like that, and then I published by November. And I've also actually written my second book. So in the same series, basically, I thought of it as a series. So as soon as I finished the first one, before I could publish it, or I even knew how to publish it, I started writing the second one, just to
It
keep the
almost,
discipline.
yes, it almost feels like the story was just gushing out of you and was compelling you to write it somehow. So I am getting curious to know the story now. So tell us more about this district magistrate who just dies one day in his house, which is a big family, and then there
Yeah.
is this inspector, this and his assistant who tries to solve this crime. So tell us about these characters. How did you go about building these? And do you take inspiration from real life? Do you really know a district magistrate?
Well, actually, I'll answer the second question first. Did I know somebody? Actually, one of my uncles was a deputy superintendent of police. In he was in Chennai when I was growing up, and he used to tell me a lot of stories about the kind of daredevilry that he did. Not sure how much of it was true, but it was super exciting.
Okay.
And one of my kind of hidden desires was to work in the IPS at some stage, but
Okay.
somehow it wasn't
Okay.
practical. I had to finish my engineering. I had to go and work, and I enjoyed my work in FMCG. So I kind of never did the IAS route. I have a lot of respect for the police. I have a lot of respect for the army. I have a lot of respect for IPS. So um, I always kind of felt that I should write a book about a police guy. I mean, what is my qualification? Nothing. I know nothing about. But in my defense, I have read my inspiration. I have read tons and tons. I think, one of the biggest mystery story readers of all time. Started at a very
Okay.
young age. So Agatha
Okay.
Christie, Alistair MacLean, going on to later times, James Patterson, Harlan Coben, Daniel Silver, David Baldacci, Lee Child, Joan Esbo, Michael
Okay.
Connolly,
Okay.
with the Bosch series, Hieronymus Bosch. So and of course, Holmes and Watson. So I'm very, very fond of the whole detective, not just detective fiction, but also the whole murder, the thriller,
The
James Hadley Chase.
mystery.
So I love that stuff. And I've read, I cannot remember how many thousands of books I've read. So
So thank you for answering my
I,
second question already, like my third question already. I can
okay.
see the passion with which you actually feel for thrillers, and which I hope has come up in your book as well. So,
Correct.
I mean, really great. And thank you for all the list that you gave us for a must read for thriller enthusiasts and stuff like that. But there was one thing that I wanted to mention when you were talking about knowing a police officer and wanting to be an IPS officer. I think I heard Shah Rukh Khan or some actor say sometime that actors and writers are really lucky because all that they could not do in their own life, they can either act or write about them. So I think you could really fulfill your dream of not becoming an IPS officer, but maybe creating that character out of your imagination of how it would have been if you were an IPS officer, probably. So that way,
No,
I guess.
you're absolutely right, actually. So my central character is a detective superintendent of police. Is a guy called Arjun Iyer. Arjun happens to be my son's name. So
Okay.
before I started writing the book, there were only literally two names in the book that I had fixed. There are lots of characters in the book. Only two names I had fixed. One was Arjun, because I wanted to name it after my son, basically.
Okay.
Arjun Iyer is the name of my detective superintendent of police. And his assistant,
Okay.
his name I had fixed, was a guy called Munuswamy. And the reason I wanted to have an assistant, and for me, Arjun is basically a very straight laced, very by the book, uh, quite a brilliant person, very well educated, very well versed in being politically correct, doing the right thing,
Hmm.
always following almost the path of Sri Ramachandra, absolutely straight
Okay.
by the book, right? Munuswamy is an antithesis to Arjun. They have a close relationship based on respect, but I wanted Munuswamy's character to be kind of a polar opposite. A person who has no problems with, ends justifying
Corruption.
the means. Yeah, not corruption, but ends justifying the means. So
Okay.
corruption is something I detest, so I never go down that route.
Okay.
But yeah, but he's a guy who end justifies the means, which means like he will
Okay.
not necessarily go by the right procedure.
Hmm.
um, you know, slap a couple of people around if you need to get the answer kind of guy. Whereas Arjun is by the
Okay.
book.
Okay.
So I wanted to
Okay.
have these contrasting characters and develop the characters in such a way that, for example, I'm a huge fan of Agatha Christie. If you read the Christie, obviously you've read the Christie series, but Hercule Poirot is the genius.
Hmm.
And Captain Hastings is a bit of a dumb guy. He's an action-oriented man, but he's
Yes.
not really the cerebral type, right? And that's the beauty of
Hmm.
Agatha Christie. I wanted my two characters to not be like that. One is not
Hmm.
subservient to the other. So my
Hmm.
Inspector Munuswamy, who reports to Arjun, is not subservient to Arjun. He's his own man. He has his own views. He knows how to laugh at his boss, which is true for a lot of us, right? All of us, we laugh at our managers in
Rebel.
the corporate world,
Rebels that
and
we
our
are.
manage,
Yes.
yeah, and our managers laugh at us. So I try to bring that kind of realism into that relationship. It's a relationship based on respect, but you have absolutely no problem with cocking a snook at your manager, right? And that's what I try to bring into that relationship. So the one of the things I tried to focus on was the chemistry between these two guys. I'm also a
Hmm.
huge fan of Woodhouse and Woodhousian kind of
Okay.
wit. So I tried to infuse a little bit of humor also into the book. Obviously, the humor is only as good as I can write it. So
That's a
tried to bring that.
honest acceptance.
Yeah, most of my friends tell me that I'm my sense of humor is pathetic. So I bring that pathetic sense of humor, which comes from years of writing skits in college plays
Okay.
and school plays and
Okay.
stuff like that. So I bring that into the book. The most important thing for me as I was writing it is I wanted to enjoy writing it. My
Absolutely.
purpose is not to really educate with these books, just to be clear, because I
Absolutely.
know bugger all about police work in reality. My purpose is to
Absolutely.
entertain. So if you've had a ball reading the book, you have two, three things to criticize because it's not factually perfect. That's okay. I take that.
Mhm.
But I do hope that the person who's finished reading the book has got a smile on their face or has a good laugh or thinks about a few things, rather than astound them with my deduction and everything. I just want people to have a good time. And that's something that's very important to me. Whether I'm writing a book or I'm in a forum and I'm singing for people or even in office, for me, it's
So you
important that
sing
people
as
laugh.
well. I saw your Instagram
Uh,
profile. You had a guitar in your hand, so you sing as well.
Uh, yeah, I do. I have been doing that for a long, long time at an
Okay.
amateur, strictly amateur level. Used to play with my college band and stuff, and I really love it. I enjoy music, basically. We have a lot of kind of get togethers at our place once in a while where nobody chats, actually. So if you don't like music, you will hate my parties. So we just kind of get together and sing, and then we just pass the
Okay.
guitar out or the keyboard out, and people just keep taking turns
Amazing.
singing songs. So I
And
love
where
that. Yeah.
and where did you go for college? I mean, I'm just getting curious now. Which state was it? Because I kindly don't associate people from Chennai being very creative in their college. I just know that the Chennai college is like all about studies. So am I right
Oh no,
in
actually,
assuming that?
let me first,
I'm
yeah,
sorry
let me
for my
first correct you on
bias.
that. I'm not from a Chennai college, but for example, I've never studied there, but I know that Loyola
Yes.
had an incredible band in when I was
Okay.
growing up called Down Sterling. So it was Down
Okay.
Sterling Road. They had an
Okay.
incredible band. So Chennai has got a very very rollicking um, musical scene, cultural scene.
Hmm.
You've got incredible brands that play
Okay.
amazing rock. So it's pretty much like Bangalore. It's just
Okay.
um, it's just that
It's
you
not
will not get
branded.
it.
It's not branded like that, I guess.
And the important thing is when you're talking to people like me, you'll hear a thick accent. But when they
Yeah.
start singing, the accent will be gone. It'll be replaced by. So Chennai has
But
got
I'm
a great
sure
scene.
they don't sing Bollywood, right? I'm sure they don't sing that much Bollywood. Or do they?
Also, yeah, also.
Okay.
Nowadays, if you because there's so much of cosmopolitanness now in Chennai that I've been to a few festivals. Not only do they sing Bollywood in the weddings and stuff like that, I can tell you that in South weddings, like Tamil weddings, they are in the morning and they are highly kind of religious and orthodox, right? But
Yes.
nowadays they've started having a
Yes.
Sangeet in the evening, in which you're
Okay.
having Tamil songs and
Okay.
Hindi
Then
songs and
passed. Then passed.
yeah, yeah. So things are changing a lot. But coming back to your
Yes.
question, I studied in IIT BHU, Banaras in the
Hmm.
university,
Okay.
uh, and I did my engineering there, and then worked for a couple of years at Tata Steel in Jamshedpur, and then I went to IIM
Hmm.
Ahmedabad.
Okay.
So I've
Okay.
spent about maybe 10, 12 years in Chennai, and about 18 years, the next 18 years in different parts of India in the north and the west. And then I was out of India for about 18 years.
Great, great. So you have literally seen a lot of cities. Then why did you choose Chennai as the main city in your book? I
Yeah, to
mean,
be honest, I'll
is
tell
there
you, it
special
was.
love for Chennai? Do you come from Chennai? As in, were you born there?
Yeah. No, I was not born there. I
No.
was born in
Okay.
Jamshedpur in Bihar,
But
in
you,
Jharkhand.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Tamil actually.
Oh, yes.
So part of the reason is because I'm Tamil and I used to read when I
Relate
was
to the
very young. I used to read.
culture.
Yeah, but
Okay.
more than that, I'll tell you very frankly the biggest reason because my hero's name was Arjun Iyer. So
You couldn't think of
it's a
any
Tamil.
other last name.
No, because the thing is that I am also Iyer. So Arjun Iyer is actually my son. So
Okay.
he's
Okay.
Arjun Narasimhan because we don't put our surname usually. But Arjun
Okay.
Iyer is actually the name of my, like it would have been the name of my son if I had
Okay.
chosen to give him, Iyer surname. So
Understood.
that
Understood.
was completely frozen for me. That I would never have changed for anything.
Okay.
That name. So given that, I said might as well put it in Chennai. And then once I started thinking about it, I actually quite started enjoying, trying to correlate it back to Chennai because there's a lot of Tamil poetry and beautiful sayings in Tamil, like Tirukkural and stuff like that. Even our Prime Minister actually quoted Kaniyan Pungunanar in recently at an international thing. So there's great Tamil poetry is like thousands of years old, and it's very
Okay.
very cool stuff. So I use some of that Tamil sayings and very pithy three-word sayings of Tamil. In fact, in the principles of Arjuna Iyer. So I basically say that these are the
Great.
principles of his life, and they derive from Tamil. So the reason was because of my son's name, and I chosen that. And I said, if it's Arjun
Yeah.
Iyer, then it'll be in. It's not actually in Chennai. It's in an unknown city in Tamil Nadu,
City in
basically.
Tamil Nadu. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that's why
So
yeah.
great. So basically, we spoke about all the fun things about book and your life so far. Now, I would like to use the last few minutes to talk about your process. Your process so far. How has it been? Right from the writing part you told us. Then tell us how did you decide on the publisher? How did you pitch? How did you took? How does the distribution look like? Tell us what you learned from this whole process and things that I'm sure that also is a different learning process altogether. So tell
No,
us
absolutely.
how was it?
No, so this is actually, I found in a nutshell that writing a book for me was far easier than getting it to publish it. Okay.
Yes, I hear
So
that all the
writing a book,
time.
like I told you, I wrote it in a month. Then what I did was after I finished writing it, I sent my book to my closest family. When I say book, I mean my Word document, which
The
I typed in.
manuscript, yeah.
Yeah, I sent it to my closest family, my parents, my sisters, my wife, and my son, and to a very, very few close friends, right?
Hmm.
To just get their feedback on what they thought. And I collected their feedback. And I also sent it to two or three friends of mine who had written books. And that's a good thing to
Okay.
do because those who have written
Yes.
books can give you very critical feedback, right? So I would suggest for any writer to do that. So get about 10 or 12 people, some your family members, because you need a few positive strokes,
Yes.
but some people who have actually written books, send it to them and take their feedback. The one thing I'll tell you is that a lot of people give a lot of feedback and it's all
Hmm.
valuable, but you cannot incorporate everything. So you have to
Everything,
choose
yes.
what you will keep and what you will not keep. So some of my friends, writer friends, actually gave me feedback saying change the ending, right? Because they felt that that ending was not necessarily the most popular ending. But I was
Okay.
clear on that I will not change it. And if
Hmm.
it's not popular, it's okay. It doesn't matter. But that's important for me. But there were some other things that they said, change this or change that or give this person more character. So for
Hmm.
example, originally when I wrote the book, I just wrote the book and I wrote the story and I developed the characters. But I hadn't given a history or a background to my DSP. So I basically said he's a
Okay.
DSP and he's very smart and he does this and he does that and he. But then one of the people who's a very very well-known writer, she told me that you need to have a character for your person.
Hmm.
What is their backstory? How should the people who read relate to this person? That's when I actually retrofitted a couple of chapters about the backstory, about his education, his background, his family, and why he became the way he became. And the second thing about a romantic background, which affected him in his life, basically. So I put that in two places. So that I actually retrofitted after I
Hmm.
finished writing the book
Got your
based on feedback.
feedback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So super
feedback
important to
very
do that.
important.
Yeah.
Then.
Then when it came to publishing process, be prepared for a lot of heartbreak. Okay, that's what I would say. So I reached out to about five or six major publishers. Um,
Hmm.
to cut a long story short, it they were all very kind and got back. But basically, the big message that they gave to me was more or less consistently is that if you pick a genre like thriller and stuff like that, you need to sell a certain amount in a few thousands, basically about 10,000 or something like that books to be able to justify producing and selling on behalf of a big publishing house. Okay.
Hmm.
So the point really is that a publishing house also spends a lot of money in doing this stuff.
Yes.
So if you go for a big publishing house, you should be publishing something that is sure to sell for them. Otherwise, they make a loss on it. You lose nothing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
In fact, some of them actually told me that non-fiction, and this was quite consistent, non-fiction sells in
Yeah.
India a lot more than fiction. And so their advice to
Yes.
me was that since you've had a very interesting career, if you want to
Yes.
write about your
I was
professional,
going to ask you that actually.
yeah, but I'll do that later. But so they said if you want to write about your professional career, then that could be a very very interesting one because
Yes.
you worked in so
Yes.
many countries around the world. So I've worked in about 7 countries around the world, basically.
Yes. Yes.
So that
But
would be
CV
very
और use
interesting.
नहीं करना है, CV और use नहीं करना है, कुछ creative करना है, right? That was
Yeah.
your motive, I guess.
The thing for me is that I was very clear, and I have nothing against writing a book based on my professional experiences, but um, I really, really wanted to write this fiction book, and I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
fiction. If you give me an option to read fiction or non-fiction, I'll pick fiction every time.
Fiction.
My
Okay.
entire life is non-fiction, right? So I like
Exactly. Exactly.
so. So I
Yes.
said, that's super advice, and I'll keep it in mind. But basically, I could not get a publisher who would just take my book, publish it, take all the expenses, and give me a
Hmm.
commission. And if I had persisted with it, and because you can go down with an agent, etc.,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it could have taken 6 to 12 months. I'm sure there would have been something that worked. But the publishing entire journey, A, getting a publisher takes time. B, once the publisher is in with you, if it's a big publisher, what
They
I also
will
learned
ask you to
directly
do
from
the
them,
changes.
yes, they'll ask you to make a lot of changes. And they told me that that will take another 6 to 12 months. So I
Hmm.
realized, look, I'm in my 50s. So I said, you know what? I don't know how long I will not be working before I go on to another job again. My priority is to publish my book. My priority is not to wait. Okay. So I said, it doesn't matter. If it sells even 5 copies, I'm happy. I'll try to make it sell more, but let's see. So I then started approaching independent publishing houses, and the one that I finally shortlisted was one called Notion Press.
Yes.
And basically, they work with me. What they do is they ask for your manuscript for the first few chapters. They take a look at whether that's okay for them or not. If they are okay with that, then they usually greenlight your project. If it's not politically a problem, or that they have some criteria basically. But if it's a normal book like a crime fiction or something like that, then hopefully it should go through. That's their choice what they do. Once they do that, they are quite disciplined about the process in which they say, uh, these are the dates and gates that will be needed. And they have different packages. And all of these guys have them. All these publishing houses
Yeah.
have them.
Yeah.
Different
Yeah.
packages. And they are something that you'll have to pay depending on what you want. So I took the package that had editing, that had not content editing. There was no content editing. There was grammatical editing, right?
Hmm.
Syntax, grammar, etc., etc., which was helpful.
Okay. Okay.
They
Okay.
helped design the cover page, and
Hmm.
in that, I would say on the cover page they were quite outstanding because I think I gave a very clear brief on what I wanted on the cover page. They took that brief, and then I think pretty much from the time that they started working on the cover brief to within 1 week, basically, I had the cover page. And I liked it so much that, I mean, they gave me a couple of options, or 3 options actually. I picked one, I gave some comments on that, they turned it around, and I was happy with it. So, literally, as quick as a week, the cover page was done.
Everything from writing to finding a publisher, editing, book design, and also marketing and doing these review program with Writersmelon, everything in a span of 6 months. It's like rapid speed, I would say, from
Yeah.
a and I think there comes your corporate experience and the whole thing for efficiency, right? Efficiency, productivity, and all of that. But yeah, I mean, the best combination is this whole creative spark that is coming in you with in this break that you have taken, and this whole efficiency and working with a fixed schedule and organizing everything in the right manner. So many congratulations to you. I really hope District Magistrate does well. I hope you reach out to more and more readers, and it's already getting good reviews on Writers Melon. So I can say that at least a lot of them have connected with the story. Some of them also mentioned it to me especially. So big congratulations on that, and wish you all the best. And we look forward to your next book and many more books. I don't wish you to take more and more breaks from your work, but whenever you do, please keep writing, and please keep your creative things going on. Basically, I think that keeps us sane, that keeps us active and energized all the time. So
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your support, Priyanka, and to Writers Melon for this. And I've actually been loving the reviews. And to be honest, what I liked about the reviews was that it's not one-sided. There have been people who
yes,
have given me 5 rating. There have been people who have given me 3 rating as well. But they've been very
yes,
clear about why, and that's really
yes,
good feedback because I can take
yes,
it forward to my next book. And like I said,
yes.
either choose to do something about it or say that's okay. That's who I am.
Yes, yes. So all the roses and thorns, criticism, praise, everything, just embrace it and enjoy this moment, is what I would say. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. And thank you
And
very
you.
much for talking to me. Bye bye.
Thanks, Priyanka. Bye.